Alright, so let's dive right into our comparison between the IWC Big Pilot and the IWC Pilot's Watch Mark 18. Now, right away, I want to remind you we're here at JB Hudson Jewelers in Minneapolis, Minnesota, who are an authorized retailer of IWC watches. And also, I'll remind you, we'll be dropping links in the description if you want to learn more about these watches or inquire about purchasing them. So, without further ado, we're going to go over the history of the IWC Big Pilot first, as it kind of, you can see there's obviously a resemblance between the two pieces, and the Mark 18 can be seen as kind of a baby Big Pilot, but there is quite a price gap between these two watches. The IWC Big Pilot is $12,900 at retail, and the IWC Mark 18 is $4,950 on the bracelet, or $3,950 on a Santoni leather strap, which is the same type of leather strap that's used on the IWC Big Pilot. I have another iteration that comes on that leather strap right here, and this is obviously the leather strap version, and again, this is $3,950, so it is a lot cheaper than the IWC Big Pilot. It's about a third the price, so that's quite a significant price gap. And I guess the whole purpose of this video is to go over why there is such a big price gap between these two. And I think that one of the main reasons is, again, it's the history. So the IWC Big Pilot is modeled after the B-Year watches that were used in World War II by the Luftwaffe, and they are very similar in design to this watch. And we actually reviewed an original B-Year that was made by Leico here at JB Hudson. It was for sale here. And that was quite an interesting video. We'll be dropping a link in the description to that if you want to see that as well. But this watch has quite significant history, and the design of the modern version is very true to the original design. Even the leather strap is pretty much the same, but there are some touches, such as slightly better finishing, actually a lot better finishing, depending on what time in the war you're referring to with the B-Year designs, as the quality kind of deteriorated as the German military lost resources. So you see many details on the modern version that were not included on the original version, such as the beautiful contrast between the polished and the brushed finishes. So the history is, again, it's one reason why this is much more expensive than the Mark 18. But another reason is the movement. So the IWC Big Pilot has a 7-day power reserve, whereas the Mark 18 only has a 42-hour power reserve. And that 42 hours is below my 48-hour threshold that I tend to prefer on watches, but I think that it's pretty much suitable. If you have a watch winder, you'll probably be fine. And the reason the power reserves are different is because this has an in-house IWC caliber, whereas this has an ETA-based movement. But again, it's up to you to decide whether or not the difference in movement quality justifies the 3 times price difference. So another thing that justifies the price difference slightly is the size difference. So the IWC Big Pilot is 46.2 millimeters in diameter, whereas the Mark 18 is only 40 millimeters in diameter. Frankly, I think the Big Pilot is a little bit too large for my tastes. I definitely would prefer the 40 millimeter Mark 18, and overall I would probably prefer it as a watch just because the price difference is that significant for me. And it doesn't really bother me that it doesn't have an in-house movement. I mean, many watches, especially in this price range, tend to have ETA movements, and the quality is still fine, so that's not that big of a deal for me. Also, I really like the stainless steel bracelet on the Mark 18, which is not available on the IWC Big Pilot, because it has some very nice features, such as the perlage on the inside of the clasp, which just is, I mean, it evokes very high quality, and I really enjoy the overall finishes on this clasp as well. Furthermore, it has a very interesting micro adjust feature that you don't see on a lot of watches in this price range. So in order to use that, what you do is you push down the IWC logo on the bracelet, on the clasp here, and this is just a blue covering because it's a brand new watch. It would obviously be stainless steel in the flesh. So again, you push down the IWC logo, and you can see you can micro adjust it and slide like that. The IWC Big Pilot does not have such a micro adjust feature, although it is a deploying clasp, so you can adjust it using just the normal way that you'd adjust a deployant by pulling out the end of the clasp and then putting it in a different position on the band. So now I'm going to move on to a wrist shot of this watch. So, as I said, the 46.2 millimeter case size is pretty large. I have about a 6.5 inch wrist in diameter, so that's kind of average to slightly above average, I think, from my experience. And I think it is a little bit too large. On the IWC Mark 18, on the other hand, I really like the size. I think it'd look great on most people, just because 40 millimeters is a perfect kind of universal size. And watches, I think, are starting to get a little bit smaller overall. We went through a phase where it was kind of very common to have a very large watch, and I think that that's kind of ending, which I actually like. I tend to prefer smaller watches. So, all in all, I think that if I were to choose between these two watches, money being an object, I would definitely go with the Mark 18. I think it provides slightly better value for money, but if you're really trying to go after that heritage and history, go for the Big Pilot. If you like this video, please remember to subscribe and share. Thank you.